What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee. I'm Angela Yee, and it is a Wealth Wednesday, so I'm here with my partner, Stacey Tisdale.
Happy Wealth Wednesday, everybody, and it's a very special one indeed because it is U.S. Open week.
Yes, and up here, it's a family affair.
Yep, we're so excited to have Sachia Vickery, who is an amazing professional tennis player and who will be playing at the U.S. Open. Her mother, Paula Liverpool, who helped her on that journey, an amazing story, and her brother, Dominique Mitchell, who's also a former athlete, but now a multi-platinum record hip-hop producer and created an NFT and an avatar. And you guys are just an amazing story of everything it takes to really be a professional athlete and thrive and all that you can do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's start with you, Mom, Paula. Okay, Liverpool. Because it all starts from you, right? And it is a lot of sacrifice that you have to make when it comes to raising your kids to be professional athletes and then to be successful and to go on and become a record producer, multi-platinum. So let's talk about your history. And because some people might feel like to be in these sports, you have to come from a privileged background, especially in tennis.
Absolutely, positively not. I am from Guyana, South America. I hail from a little village called Kokwani Park up the Barrios River. I actually did not come to America in your regular traditional way. I came on a boat. At that time, you needed a visa. I didn't get it at the time, and I was so eager to come to the land of opportunity. So I took my chances on a little boat across the Atlantic Ocean, and I got to the U.S. And when I got here, I know for a fact I wanted my children to have a good life, a better life than you would have in a third world country. So I put all my efforts, all my sacrifices into them, and I'm humbled, proud, and happy to see how things have blossomed.
How did that even get started with you being able to afford to help Sachia play professional tennis? I know you were working 20 hours a day at one point.
Yeah, well, actually, I worked 2 jobs. I worked in the daytime at an online university, and I bartended. Basically, I think it was all about creativity and to just do the best you can. I utilize my flights and my flight privileges because I worked for the airlines and just whatever resources I can pull from. And then when you show promise at an early age, you kind of get a little bit of support. So basically, that's how it started.
Even the process of being a citizen, how was that? Because I know that can be, you came over on a boat, like you said, you were just eager to say, all right, I want a better life. Mm-hmm. So what was that process like for you?
It was difficult, but, with everything else that you went through, whatever you had to go through, and then I became a citizen of the U.S. That made things much, much easier because doors open. When you come as an immigrant without documentation to get jobs and things like that becomes very challenging. So you go through whatever process you can, and then you get to where you need to get to.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about their stories about not being able to get a car, not being able to go to school. And like you said, even looking for work and for a job that pays even the minimum wage, sometimes people take advantage when they know you're not documented.
Absolutely. They take advantage of you when they know you don't have the correct documentation. But, with sacrifice, everything is possible.
And for you, Sachia and Dominique, while all this was going on when you were very young, right? Sometimes when we're young, we don't realize what, the difficulties because we're so used to it. Like we grow up in a situation where I know for me, like I didn't leave my neighborhood until I was older, and you don't realize all the struggles that you went through until later in life. So did any of this, was this something that you knew or you didn't realize till you look back and were like, damn, we went through a lot?
Yeah, I think for me, I realized, I know my mom tried to, she tried her best not to show it or not to, tell me everything that was going on. But, I obviously saw like she struggled. She was working a lot. She would always come home super, super late. Even when I went to tournaments, she would just give me money whenever she could. So I knew it was completely different than any of the other players that I was playing with at the time. They had coaches, they had, their parents travel with them. They always had hotels set up, everything arranged. And I went the complete opposite route. And so it was something where I knew what was going on, but then I knew I had the potential to make something of myself. And I I put the work in since I was very young to get to that level. So.
And Dominique, you were an athlete too. And I remember when I first heard about your guys' story like 10 years ago, you had images of your mother just sitting in tears over piles of bills. And you tried to do your part by earning scholarships and working. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, being...
and you lived with LeBron James's family at one point.
Yeah, so that was later on in high school. But yeah, being kind of the man of the house at a young age, you see more. So I would see my mom struggling. Excuse me. I would see her struggling and, you know, dealing with certain things. And it gives you kind of a helpless feeling because you can't, like at the time, I'm, you know, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. There's nothing I can do about it. So it's just when I go out here and play soccer or play these sports, I'm going to give it my all because one day I want to fix the situation. Mm-hmm. So that was like the earliest memory I have playing sports. Like my motivation is to fix the situation that we in.
And Sasha, you have gone as high as been ranked as high as 73 in the world. And I know breaking through that top 100, that's when you can start earning money. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, up until that point, you know, obviously tennis is way different than any other sport. It's not like, you know, football, basketball, where you're in a contract, you know, you're on a team, you have, you know, all these contracts to fall back on. Tennis is completely individual. So, you know, if you're not winning, if you're not doing extraordinary, you're not going to make any money. So the hardest part is getting from juniors to professional tennis because that's what takes the most money and you need the most resources. But once I excelled, you know, I was like number 2 junior in the world, and then a few opportunities came up. And then when I got to professional, I wasn't making a lot of money, but I worked for a lot of years until I was able, you know, like you said, to be top 100. Then you start making, you know, a lot more money. So, yeah.
And I remember reading about things that you went through during that time, and even being at a match and they were making monkey noises at you and having to deal with racism. Mm-hmm. So how was that for you mentally? Because you did speak out about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, tennis historically, you know, it's a very white sport. There's only, other than Venus and Serena, which now Serena is obviously not playing, there's only 4 or 5 of us, women on the tour. So I think, you know, going through those type of things, you know, like racism, that's something that, you know, it hasn't happened a lot for me, maybe when I was younger, but as I was older, I started realizing, okay, like, you know, these people in the crowds, like they're really hostile. When I travel overseas, you know, I'd go through like these like minor steps of racism kind of, and it's just something I never expected. But as the more you play on the tour and the more years that you have under your belt, you kind of learn to block it out. You know, I get a lot of hate and racist stuff online, along with many other athletes, but it's just something you learn to block out.
And we shouldn't have to be having to block that out, right? Like there should be some accountability for people. And as her brother and her mom, what does that do for you guys when you have to witness that? Because sometimes that's hard too. You see what she's going through and you see these ignorant people that are attending matches and that are online trolling.
For me, you know, as her older brother and like I said, the man of the family, a man of the house, it's nothing I can do about it in a professional way. So, you know, the best advice is just keep doing what you're doing. If you weren't achieving and reaching these different levels, people wouldn't have anything to say.
Right, that's why they mad.
Yeah, this is like, don't go back and forth with them online. That's not going to solve anything. Because at the end of the day, it's usually somebody behind an account with no profile picture that, you know, this is their way to deal with whatever they're dealing with in real life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to hear, it's amazing
I be
how
want
you
to
guys
call people out. I be want to call people. I did that one time. Somebody said something crazy to me. Do you know I found this? I don't know why I had time that day, but I called the person's job.
Oh, that's
yes, I did. I got him fired. I actually screenshot it. He was like, "Go back to your country." First of all, I'm from here, right? Yeah. But anyway, I screenshotted it. I'm not gonna lie. I Googled his name, found his Facebook page, found his job. And then I sent it to his boss, and I was like, "I'm gonna talk about this on the radio." And I really did get him fired.
Wow! I could definitely
But it was only one time I did that. I had it was a pandemic. I had time.
Yeah. Oh, you got him up out of there. Like,
that was
no, I can relate. I used to get it.
Yeah, we're gonna start doing research. We're gonna start doing some research.
I used to get
you did a post that you're gonna start calling people out.
Yeah, I think I went through a period, and you know, obviously as an athlete, you know, when you lose a tennis match, like as soon as you get off the court, like you don't want to talk to nobody, you see nobody, and then you open your Instagram and it's like 10, 20 of these and you're gonna have one day where you're like, oh, today's the day.
Yeah.
So definitely, so
day.
there's definitely been days I'll go back and forth, but then now at this point I'm like, it's just too much energy and it's not bringing me
And
anything.
Paula,
It's
you
not
said
even
you
worth
would
it.
get really mad.
Yeah, I got one of those West Indian tempers. I used to get extremely annoyed in the beginning and, start responding to a couple of people. And after a while, you realize you're just wasting your time and your energy. But it could be very hurtful and it could make you very agitated at times because people don't take into consideration when they say these things, the effect that they can have on somebody because you don't know that person's mental state, you don't know their confidence level.
Right.
So they just do things and put it out there without even stopping to think, am I being kind? Am I being, hateful? So, but for me right now, I'm used to it. But let me tell you, in the beginning, it used to make me so mad. I used to want to fight somebody.
Right.
It's defining. I grew up as a figure skater. The only black figure skater. The places I trained, I was the only black person. Had amazing. There's no place for things like self-esteem and self-confidence to develop because I was 11 when I left my parents and was dealing with this by myself, and which made me think of a girl I used to live with. One of my roommates when I skated called me last week just out of the blue, and she said, I always notice how people just treated you differently. And you do block it out, but you internalize it on some level. But we got over all that.
Yeah.
And you have earned about $1.7 million in prize money, which sounds like a lot, but doesn't come regular in tennis. And you've taken that and you've created, financial security for yourself. How important is that, and what are some of the things you've done?
Yeah, so another thing with tennis is, people will look and see that number and they're like, wow, 1.7 million. But also tennis is a sport where every dollar you make, it goes back into your career.
Your mom told me it's about $150,000 a year to play tennis.
Yeah,
but
that's easily,
coaches and all over. Yeah.
That's like trying to save. That's like almost budgeting. Like tennis is a very expensive sport. So obviously early on, I knew what was to come down the line. And I always was really smart with my money or any type of money I made. I never needed to stay in like the fanciest hotels or, these expensive tournament hotels that all the other players stay in. Like I was always very smart from the time I was a teenager. And I knew by the time I got to 22, 23, I would have made enough money where I could get a house. And I did. I got my first 3-bed, 3-bath, like a beautiful condo. And then obviously once, like I said, past COVID and all that, I was able to sell it, make a profit, got another place. So even by doing that, like I actually learned, I'm actually really interested in doing real estate. It's like kind of a fun industry. So I didn't expect that for sure. But tennis is definitely, it's not what it looks like on paper. You spend so much money when it comes to training, treatment, recovery. I could go on, but it's a very expensive sport.
And you also dealt with anxiety during that time. You think that was caused by playing tennis, or you feel like you had that before you were playing?
Yeah, so I feel like it was just a buildup of like many years. And I think what happened was during COVID, when you had so much time to sit and like think about things, that's when everything like kind of hit me more. But before that, like I was always on a schedule, like, I'd be tournament to tournament and, I travel 35 weeks out of the year. So you don't have time to really like sit and process everything. You're always on to the next thing, training or whatever. But I think during that COVID year, like it was hard for me restarting just because you had time to sit and think about like all the stress and the travel, the booking hotels, finances, because like I said, everything is on your shoulders. Tennis is an individual sport.
Right.
So it's like you only have yourself. So I think that just kind of hit me more during that time. But yeah, it's something like I've managed. It's gotten a lot better, but it's still going to be like an uphill battle for me. It's not something that just goes away.
And Dominic, you said a few times that you're the man of the house, the man of the family. All right. And you were playing professional sports as well.
I played collegiate football.
Collegiate football? Okay, so did you think you were going to go professional, or is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, the goal is definitely to reach the highest level of sports as professional. So, yeah, that was the goal.
Okay, but then you made a pivot. So let's talk about that, too, because you've been successful, but at something else.
Oh, yeah, so when what made me pivot was I blew my knee out in the third game of the season.
Oof.
Yeah, my senior season at that. So my mom was at the game. So when it happened, you have all of these different thoughts, and you training from 5 years old to I think I was 24 at the time. So all of that kind of goes down the drain.
Damn.
Yeah, but at the time, I didn't have any time to feel sorry for myself or even like, because when it happened, I was getting carried off the field and I looked at my mom and I said, it's over. And then, I mean, she jumped the fence and she was like, don't you ever. Like she was, when I say she was on the field, she was literally on the field, like at the 20-yard line. So I'm getting carried over and I'm looking at her, I'm like, it's over. And she's like, don't you ever tell me it's effing over. So like, with that, instantly, my mind switched and I got in the ambulance. And the first text I sent out was to one of my partners. And I said, look, football's over. I need to win a Grammy. So let's get to it. Like, literally just like that. So that was the pivot for me.
For anybody who wants to play football too, something like that can happen, right? It's a really common thing, an injury that could actually end your career. Yeah. So did you always have a backup plan?
I never thought of a backup plan. You know,
You're so young when it happened.
Yeah, and it's also like I know if I set a goal, I'm gonna get to it. So there's no need to, for a backup plan. To some people that may seem foolish, but I don't like to set. If this doesn't work, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make it work. You know what I'm saying? So when that happened, it was like, okay, what's the next best thing I have? Other than helping my sister, with what she had going on is, okay, I know how to make music a little bit, so let's jump into this. Let's do this. And I just applied the same work ethic and principles into that, and things kind of got rolling for me pretty fast.
And when was your first break when it came to the music?
I had a song with Yo Gotti called Mitch. That was like the coolest moment of my life. 'Cause, like,
that's a good one.
My production name is Mitch Moolah, so hearing that was dope. And then I was on Juice WRLD's first album, so I was a part of that.
Huge.
Yeah.
Look at what you did with your with your kids.
I know.
You have to be so proud of.
I'm so proud. I'm so humbled. I remember when my son got injured that day. I was there looking, and even though they have a helmet on, I just knew that was my son. I could feel it in my spirit that was my son that got hit. There's no way on earth I can jump a fence again like that. It was adrenaline, and I heard the security saying, there's a lady running on the field, and Dominique didn't even look at me and say, oh, that's my mom, that's my mom.
When you said, I'm like, I know who that is.
Yeah. Well, we see where the athletics come from in the family.
You had a moment, a mother moment, where you actually thought Sasha was going to have to stop playing tennis.
Yeah.
Like that's an amazing story. Share that.
Oh, Sasha was almost 16 years old. She went to a tournament. When I say I had no money, I remember the night when we were hosted by a friend, and we went out to dinner that night. I couldn't even afford to eat, but I wouldn't let her know that I couldn't afford to eat. So I bought dinner for her. And I said, she's like, Mom, you're not eating? I'm like, I'm full. I ate on the street. So I called for some bread rolls and some hot tea, because I figured the tea would break the little gas and the bread rolls would hold me over. The next day, I remember I was going to take her home. And I called one of the ladies from the United States Tennis Association, and I said, listen, I never complain. I don't ever discuss my personal business. So I said to her, Kathy, I got to take Sasha home. We can't stay. And she's like, why? Leave her. She can win the tournament. So I left Sasha with the $30 that I had, and they found accommodation for her. And Sasha ended up winning that tournament. It was the Nationals in California. I believe it was San Diego. And winning that tournament got her a wild card into the U.S. Open main draw. Knowing that, good, when you get into the main draw of the U.S. Open, I think at the time you were guaranteed like $30-something thousand. When she won that tournament, I was crying as if somebody died. I mean, it was like we survived. It was one of those times when I know that if that was it, there was no way she could go further than this. But that was really, really a waking moment in our lives. So that's how Sasha survived. She won the hard courts championship, got a wild card into the U.S. Open, and that restarted her career, because now we had $30,000 as opposed to $30.
Right.
Yeah, and that's when talking about the mental health too. That's when I actually had my first panic attack, because I knew everything that was going on. Like she said, like she didn't want to say it, but I knew.
You feel it all.
I felt it. Like if I didn't win that tournament and win that, I wouldn't have been able to keep playing. Like it was just getting too much. It was too much pressure, and like my body was starting to shut down. So that was like the first moment of that, I would say.
Now, what about endorsement deals? What kind of role did that play into, because obviously when you made it into the top 100, right, and you're finally making money, were there endorsement deals where people knocking down the door like, okay, how can we work with you?
Yeah, so with tennis, like professional tennis, it's kind of up and down, because it all goes off results. And by then, like I did start to have some sponsors, I had like a racket deal, I had a clothing deal, but there's also a lot of people that are at the same or similar level than you. So, it's a really hard field to kind of get those contracts. But I was still getting, a little bit of help, but it wasn't anything that was, like life-changing. I still had to go and make good results and win and make good results for myself. But I did start to get a little bit of help to get to that next level.
All right. And that's good. So you said now you're passionate perhaps about real estate.
Yeah.
And you want to start a clothing line.
Yeah, real estate. And actually, so I design clothes for myself right now. Tennis clothes, yeah. And so the goal behind that was over the years, like I could never really find clothes that fit women that have like a more curvy type figure, because tennis players traditionally are very slim, fit, and I was like, well, it would be cool if I could kind of make stuff that suits like different body types. And I started designing stuff for myself, and I've got a lot of positive feedback, so I think that's something I want to start looking into in the future.
That's great. I think that's part of why we loved Serena so much too. Yeah. To see her fashion on a court, and then also the fact that like she wasn't shaped like what we're used to tennis players looking like. And so, and even just to see her, that was such a big deal for us. Are you friends like with other tennis players? Do y'all hang out?
I watched her practice with Venus once. It was so cool.
Yeah. So I have a good relationship with Venus and Serena. Okay. They've kind of seen me grow up, and I used to train with their dad when I was younger.
Amazing.
I hit with Serena a few times back in Florida because we don't live too far from each other, and I've learned a ton from them. Just watching them train, how they interact, like with their coaches, with their dad, and but then friends outside of them, I have a couple, but tennis is, it's hard. We're all competing against each other, so mainly like my closer friends are outside of tennis, but I have a few friends here and there.
And Dominique, I want to hear this LeBron story that Stacey brought up.
LeBron story. That's funny. So, when I was in high school, my dad was dating his mother, and when I left Florida to live with him, ultimately I was living with her and my father. So I had a close relationship with LeBron, and it was family. I was seeing them every other day, spending Christmas over there, and it's a lot to it. It's like living with this new family for 4 years. It was different from where I came from. In a house and coming up in a Caribbean setting, moving to Ohio. Now everything's completely different. We used to having this. Now it's like I'm getting boxes of shoes delivered to me. It was, I could talk about it for 20 minutes straight. It was like, it seems like a lifetime ago. Right. But it was interesting. I seen so much. I was going to the games all of the time. I almost dropped out of school because I missed so many days.
Sheesh.
It was a lot, but like it was, when I moved to Ohio, it was different than living with my mom, because my mom she was on top of us, making sure we did this, making sure we did that. Yeah. So living with my dad, the first week I got up there, he told me straight, I'm not your mom. You want something done, you have to do it yourself. And I laughed like, ha ha. But not to laugh at him, but then I realized like, oh, my clothes basket, my dirty clothes is climbing up the wall. Like, I gotta learn how to
wash these clothes.
I gotta learn how to wash my clothes, and then even being responsible and getting to school on time and figuring out how to. So it made me grow up really fast and become really responsible at a young age. So I'm grateful for it.
Did you guys have a good co-parenting relationship?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Dominique learned to do things for himself very quickly, because I think I kind of spoiled them, that Caribbean mentality when you cater to your kids.
Especially with the boys. Let me tell you something. I feel like my mom still does my brother's laundry.
Yeah. You could relate.
That was wild.
Maybe that's why you get this entrepreneurial.
Yes, it's like that discipline, because when he said you're going to do things for yourself, that means go to bed on your own time, get to school on your own time. So
and we see you missed a lot of days. So
I missed so many days. But I had a good relationship with the tennis lady, so it's like.
Oh, so she hooked you up.
When I came in, I was like, yeah, you know what was going on. So after a while, like that was maybe like the first year. After a while, I realized like, okay, if I come home at 3:00 in the morning, I still have to get up at 6. If we were out at the game and then went to dinner with the players, I still have to get up in the morning to handle my business. So after like maybe 6-7 months, it just kicked in like, okay, it's on me to do these things.
Wow.
I remember Dominique told me one day, Sasha forgot something and I was running to go get it. And then Dominique told me a story about when you forgot something at home.
Oh yeah, my dad wasn't playing that. Like, you're not calling me to bring you nothing. Like, you either have it or you don't. So like, I'm extremely grateful for the lessons that he taught me and everything I seen and was able to be a part of while I was up there.
Dominique, totally shifting gears. You have you've created an NFT.
Yeah.
That's raised over $3 million because
Yep.
you created a black rapper avatar. What is this NFT? And you're also, you had partners like crypto.com and
Correct.
all that. What is it?
So it's the character's name is Lil Bitcoin. It's an avatar rapper. And you know, with the NFT, it wasn't something I created because NFTs was this booming market. I created in 2018 just as a concept. You know, it would have been a gimmick if I released it then, but with the emergence of the NFT space in 2021, it gave me a place to sell these assets. So, I mean, it was really just like a wild ride, honestly, and we still dropping NFTs to this day, but, you know, the first couple of drops we had did over like $1 million.
Wow.
Which was like...
You got in at the right time, let me tell you.
Perfect timing, and we also did a collaboration with Death Row Records, but this is before Snoop Dogg acquired them, but that was amazing. It was like 800,000 in 2 days, so... I mean, really just owning the IP, it taught me a lot because I'm a producer, but I also understand business. And it put me in a different position to where I own the IP. It's a lot different. You know what I mean? Like, Steve Jobs didn't own, I mean, he owned and created the iPhone, but he owns Apple. So it's a lot you could do with Apple. And I'm learning the different things that I can do with this IP, like partnerships, for example. So partnering with Crypto.com has been amazing. They, you know, supported everything we've done, and I actually got comic books for y'all in the other room, so I'll give y'all some of those as well. Yeah,
we lit. And I got to ask you, also, Sasha, how are you feeling now as you're getting ready for the U.S. Open, and what's like your routine as you're preparing, you know, to be in front of everybody?
Yeah, so now kind of the days leading up, I try to keep it light. You know, I've already trained and I put the work in and I've done all that. So I usually come to New York like a day early. And, you know, the first day I just, you know, walk around, I hang out, enjoy the city. And then from tomorrow I start practicing, training, and then my first match will be Tuesday.
Okay.
So I just keep it light and, you know, keep it fun because, you know, once Monday night kind of hits, then the stress, you know, kicks in and the pressure and all that. So, yeah.
Well, it feels like you operate great under pressure, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So far, yeah. Hopefully I have a good U.S. Open. So
One
that's the
last
goal.
thing I wanted your thoughts on. I think in the last 2 years, we've seen student athletes able to earn money on their name, image, and likeness because of that NIL rule change. I went to a women's basketball game and they're like, oh, those two girls have $1 million contracts. Those two girls have $1 million contracts. As an athlete, now you're seeing all of these young people being able to make money. What financial advice do you have for them? And you, and I know Angela, you've done so much through your brands. You've invested in other things and used them as other wealth building tools. How important is that for people to think about?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could kind of only speak for myself, but me personally, I'm not really like a materialistic type of person. So I think that helps a lot. I think, you know, if you give a younger person a lot of money, you know, at a young age, then of course the first thing they want to do is buy like a super flashy car and expensive, you know, all this expensive stuff. So I would just say try to like stay humble and just really think about the necessities. Like, you know, having a house is like the first priority, then having a car is second priority. So
And
I
you're
think
not going to be doing it forever.
yeah, you're not going to be doing it forever. Exactly. So at least while you're in your career, you have to set yourself up for when you retire, and you have to make sure you put money aside and not just, you know, blow it on going out clubbing and all that stuff. It's fun at the time, but you'll definitely be thankful for it later. You know, when you look back and be like, wow, okay, I didn't need to do all that. I have all this security now. So I think just to be smart and, you know, don't follow the crowd and just
a lot of times we're like, why did I buy this? Like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And I do think setting financial goals, to your point of like buying a house so you can feel secure and stable, it helps you when you realize the sacrifices that you're making of not buying things. So I might say, well, right now I'm not doing this fun thing. I'm not taking this vacation, but I know I'm saving up because I'm about to buy a house.
Right.
And so when I set a goal for myself, and it's like, I know when I reach X amount of dollars, that's when I'm ready to make a move. It feels good to know that that's what that money is going toward, and that's why I'm not doing more frivolous things.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of always had that mindset, you know, stay away from the materialistic stuff.
All right. Well, we see the off-white, so go. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, mine
put
is
me on the
like
spot like that?
Forever 21. Like,
Oh, you asking me? Okay,
Yeah, that's
okay.
it. Yeah, we're-
But yeah, as a former college athlete, I think it's amazing. You got these universities are making so much money off of these players, and for them to not, you know, it takes till now for them to get paid off of it is insane. You know, you got schools like Alabama that the coach is getting over $4 million a year to coach, but he's coaching players. What are the players getting?
Right.
Some of these players don't have any food to eat at night. But then you hear a story of
Their mothers are working like crazy
Exactly.
to be able to do what they want.
But then you have the public outrage when you hear Jameis Winston, or I think he stole crab legs or something like that. It's like, why are y'all so mad? He's not making any money. His
Right.
jersey is selling. He has, $1 million in jersey sales, but he's not getting a penny of that. To me, it's just insane. But I love it. I'm glad that it's happened. It should have happened earlier, and I hope it keeps going on.
Excellent.
All right. And you're writing a book? Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
My story coming across the Atlantic Ocean, I went back to Tortola. That's where I crossed over from Tortola to St. Thomas. And I was looking at this ocean that I really literally sat in a little boat that looked like a saucer. I wanted to kind of share that experience. So it's basically called A Remarkable Journey, the story of an immigrant. I've been procrastinating with this book for years. My son is the main one that's kind of poking me, but that's something that I have to do.
Right.
I think I owe the public to tell them a little bit about my story, because I know a lot of immigrants can relate to what I'm going to say. So that's something, a goal that I'm setting. And I got a new passion where I'm making my own candles.
Oh, nice.
Elegant. It's called Paula's Elegant Exotic Candles. So that's what I've been doing lately.
Okay, I love it. And I know someone who could do the soundtrack too for when you put the
You got all that.
All right.
And how can people find each of you? I know you're at Sasha Vick.
yeah, at Sasha Vick, Sachia. My name's spelled differently, but yeah, that's my Instagram handle.
Excellent. And you're at Mitch Mula.
Yep, MITCHMULA.
And
on
this one's
Instagram.
really going to shock you all. She's at Paula the tennis mom.
Yeah.
Really
Let's make it
shocking.
simple.
But we-
All right. We'll be watching next
Thank
week.
you.
Thank
Great
you.
luck
We're
at the
very
U.S.
excited.
Open.
Thank
Very
you for
proud of
having
you.
us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you guys very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. It's a Wealth Wednesday.
Yeah.